right, so are you ready to dive into something pretty cool?
I'm ready.
We're going to be taking a look at what it takes to really thrive in Sweden in 2025,
Okay.
especially for someone like you who's planning on moving there.
Oh, right.
So we have got this guide that covers just a ton of the essentials.
Cool.
Think language, finding a job, a place to live,
Yeah.
understanding their social systems, even navigating the unique Swedish culture.
Wow.
I was flipping through it earlier, and some of this stuff is fascinating.
Really?
Like, did you know there's a whole culture built around coffee breaks?
No, I didn't know that.
They call it fika.
Fika.
Apparently, it's a big deal.
Interesting.
We'll get into all that and much more.
Yeah, what really strikes me about this guide is just how practical it is.
Uh-huh.
It really seems like it was written for someone who's really serious about making Sweden their home,
Totally.
not just visiting for a bit.
Yeah. It even mentions things like how to get a Swedish driver's license
Oh, wow.
and that winter tires are mandatory during certain months.
Really?
That makes sense given the climate up north,
Yeah.
especially when winters can be pretty harsh.
Right.
So let's start with the language.
Okay?
I know a lot of Swedes speak English,
Yeah.
but how important is it to actually learn Swedish?
I would say it's essential if you really want to integrate into society.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You might be able to get by in major cities with just English,
Mm-hmm.
but speaking Swedish just opens up so many doors.
Right.
From deeper cultural understanding to even better job opportunities.
It's like that in a lot of places.
The guide really emphasizes that learning the language can truly unlock your experience.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
So where do you even begin?
Um,
Are there resources available for newcomers?
this guide mentions SFI courses.
SFI.
Yeah, it stands for Swedish for Immigrants.
Gotcha.
These courses are offered for free all over the country,
Wow.
and they're specifically designed to get newcomers up to speed.
Okay.
You also have like the usual suspect language learning apps like Duolingo and Babbel.
Mm-hmm.
Those can be fun to just pick up the basics on your own time.
Yeah, so that's a good starting point.
Yeah.
Now, I see the guide mentions this word riksvenska.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Is that like the official Swedish everyone learns?
Exactly.
Oh,
It's the standard Swedish that's taught in SFI and used in most media and formal settings.
Okay, that makes sense.
But be prepared.
Okay.
You'll definitely encounter those regional dialects and accents as you go.
Oh, of course.
It's just like anywhere else.
Yeah.
People in the South might sound totally different from up north.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. I could already see how mastering those regional accents would give you some serious street cred.
Oh, yeah.
But before we get ahead of ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about the legal side of things.
Okay.
What's the first step to actually, living in Sweden?
The guide's really clear about this.
Okay.
You need a residence permit,
Okay.
which they call uppehållstillstånd.
Uppehållstillstånd.
Yeah. Okay.
It's your ticket to legally living and working in Sweden,
Got it. And I'm guessing there's paperwork involved?
of course.
Yeah.
You'll need to apply through the Swedish Migration Agency,
Okay.
or Migrationsverket, as they call it.
Oh, Migrationsverket.
Yeah. They handle all things residency and citizenship related.
So that's the place to go.
Mhm.
Let's say someone gets their residence permit
Yeah,
and they love Sweden so much they want to just stay forever.
sure.
What does the path to citizenship look like?
Generally, you need to live in Sweden for 5 years on a residence permit,
Okay.
though it is shortened to 3 years if you have refugee status.
Gotcha.
On top of that, you have to demonstrate proficiency in Swedish,
Okay.
which circles back to those language courses we were talking about,
Right.
and have a clean criminal record.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty standard stuff.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So you've got your language skills down, you've got your residence permit sorted.
Mm-hmm.
What's next in this whole settling in process? Well, this guide dives into something called bank-ID.
Bank-ID.
Have you heard of it?
Bank-ID. Honestly, it sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It might as well be given how essential it is in Sweden.
Really?
Yeah. Think of it as your digital key to practically everything.
Oh, wow.
Banking, taxes, government services,
Yeah.
even signing contracts.
No kidding.
It's like a supercharged digital ID that streamlines almost every aspect of daily life.
Wow. So no more signing a million forms with a pen and paper.
Not if you have BankID.
That is amazing.
And, you know, it illustrates a larger point about Sweden.
What's that?
They're really big on digitalization and efficiency.
Oh, interesting.
They make things as easy as possible,
Okay.
especially when it comes to, like, administrative tasks.
So they've got that all figured out.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious about their social systems.
Yeah.
The guide emphasizes the importance of something called a person number.
Right.
What exactly is that?
Basically, it's your personal identification number.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's more than just a number, though. It's your access point to healthcare, banking, housing, you name it.
Oh, wow.
It's like the thread that ties you into the Swedish system.
So it sounds like getting a person number is pretty important.
It's crucial.
How do you go about getting one?
That's where Skatteverket comes in.
Skatteverket.
That's the Swedish tax agency.
Okay.
They handle all things related to person number and taxes.
All right.
Once you have your residence permit, you'll want to register with them ASAP.
Taxes. That's a good reminder.
Yeah.
What's the tax situation like in Sweden? Is it like super complicated?
It can be, but the good news is Skatteverket provides a ton of information and resources online.
Oh, good.
Even in English.
Okay.
And a lot of things are automated, so it's not as daunting as it might seem.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
So speaking of essential services, what about healthcare?
Right.
What should someone moving to Sweden know about accessing healthcare?
Sweden is known for its great public healthcare system,
Okay.
which everyone with a person number can access.
Okay, so you got to have that person number.
Yeah, you'll have to pay subsidized fees for certain services, but it's a far cry from what you might be used to in other countries.
Okay.
However, if you don't have a person number yet,
Yeah.
you might want to consider getting private insurance until you're fully registered in the system.
Okay, so it sounds like that person number really is the key to unlocking everything.
Pretty much.
Got it.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about earning some of those Swedish krona.
Okay.
What does the job market look like for someone new to the country?
The job market in Sweden is quite strong,
Okay.
and there's a high demand for skilled workers in certain sectors.
Okay.
The guide recommends checking out resources like Arbetsförmedlingen,
Arbetsförmedling.
which is their public employment service.
Gotcha.
It's a great place to start your job search.
So what about sites like LinkedIn?
Oh, yeah.
Are those commonly used in Sweden?
Okay. LinkedIn is a great way to connect with potential employers and build your professional network.
Yeah.
Don't underestimate the power of networking.
Right.
Especially in a new country.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious,
Yeah.
are there any industries that are particularly open to hiring people who are still learning Swedish?
Definitely. The guide points out sectors like IT, engineering, and healthcare, where English is often used as the working language.
Okay.
So even if your Swedish isn't fluent yet,
Yeah.
you can still find great job opportunities in those fields.
Well, that's encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you land that dream job.
Yeah.
Is there anything specific someone needs to know about working in Sweden?
One thing that stands out in the guide
Yeah.
is the emphasis on work permits.
Oh, okay.
Make sure you have the correct permit for your job
Yeah.
and that it's up to date.
Okay.
If you switch jobs, you'll likely need to update your permit as well. It's a bit of a process, but the guide lays it all out really clearly.
So you just got to follow the steps.
Yeah.
Now, what about things like workers' rights?
Mm-hmm.
I've heard Sweden has like pretty strong labor laws.
They absolutely do.
Okay.
Sweden is known for protecting its workers.
Okay.
And there are clear regulations about everything,
Really?
from working hours and vacation time to sick leave and notice periods.
Okay.
You have rights as an employee, and it's important to familiarize yourself with them.
Right.
The guide actually has a whole section dedicated to this, which is really helpful.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So we've covered language, residency, healthcare, and even the job market.
Yeah.
Feeling overwhelmed yet?
I know, it's a lot.
Don't worry.
Okay.
We're just getting started.
Oh, no.
Up next, we'll tackle the fun stuff.
Bye.
Finding a place to live and navigating that Swedish lifestyle.
Now that's where things can get really interesting.
Okay, I'm ready.
Yeah, finding housing in Sweden, especially in those popular cities, can be a bit of an adventure.
I'm up for the challenge.
All right.
Let's see what this guide has to say about tackling the Swedish housing market.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's talk about finding a place to live in Sweden.
All right.
I imagine it's not as easy as just snapping your fingers
No.
and getting like a beautiful apartment overlooking a fjord. Right.
It can definitely be challenging,
Okay.
especially in those really desirable city centers that
Right.
everyone wants to be in.
Yeah.
The guide specifically mentions Stockholm,
Okay.
Gothenburg, and Malmo
Gotcha.
as having really high housing demand.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That being said,
Yeah.
there are definitely ways to navigate the rental market successfully.
Okay. So let's break it down.
Okay.
What are some good starting points for someone who's looking for a place to rent?
Well, the guide mentions a couple of popular websites like Blocket.se
Blocket.se.
and Bostadsförmedling.
Bostadsförmedling.
where you can find rental listings.
Yes.
Facebook groups dedicated to housing
Yeah.
in specific cities can also be a good resource,
Right.
especially for finding sublets or rooms and shared apartments.
So a bit of online sleuthing is in order?
Definitely.
Anything else someone should keep in mind when they're apartment hunting?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Always make sure you're dealing with a legitimate landlord
Yeah.
and that the property is as advertised.
Right.
Scams, unfortunately, can happen anywhere.
Oh, of course.
The guide emphasizes the importance of signing a proper lease agreement
Right.
and understanding your rights as a tenant.
Yeah, speaking of tenant rights, I'm curious about that. What kind of protections are there for renters in Sweden?
You'll be relieved to hear that Sweden has very strong tenant rights.
Okay, good.
Landlords can't just raise the rent arbitrarily,
Right.
and evictions are heavily regulated.
Oh, wow.
The guide details these rights.
Okay.
So be sure to read through that section carefully.
Okay.
Knowing your rights can really empower you and help you avoid any sticky situations.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've got a place to live.
Okay.
We're gainfully employed.
Mm-hmm.
What about education?
Okay.
Is Sweden one of those countries where education's like a super big deal?
It is.
Yeah.
Education is highly valued in Swedish culture,
Good.
and their public school system is both free and highly rated
For all ages.
for grades 1 through 9.
Okay.
So primary and middle school, essentially.
Free education. I love the sound of that.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
What about higher education?
Okay.
Like universities?
Yeah.
Is that free too?
For EU and EEA citizens,
Okay.
as well as those with permanent residency.
Okay.
Tuition is free
Wow.
at Swedish universities.
That is incredible.
Others may have to pay tuition,
Okay.
but there are scholarship opportunities available.
Okay.
So regardless of your background, a quality education is within reach in Sweden.
Wow, it seems like Sweden really prioritizes making education accessible for everyone.
It really does.
That's pretty impressive.
It speaks to their commitment to equality and investing in their people,
Right.
regardless of where they come from.
Yeah. I'm seeing here that the guide mentions international schools.
Right.
I guess that makes sense given the global nature of many Swedish cities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you prefer your children to have like an English-speaking education,
Hmm.
there are international schools available
Okay.
in many major cities.
Cool. So it provides families with more choices and flexibility,
Definitely.
which is great.
Yeah, always a good thing.
All right, so we've got our living situation sorted.
Mm,
We found a job.
yeah.
Our kids are enrolled in amazing schools.
All right.
What's next on the agenda?
Well, you'll need to get around, right?
Right.
And the guide dives into the world of transportation in Sweden,
Okay.
highlighting the public transportation systems,
Okay.
especially in cities like Stockholm.
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
Yeah.
I've heard Stockholm has like a fantastic metro system.
Yeah.
What's it actually like getting around in Swedish cities?
It's pretty great.
Okay.
The guide lists different transportation authorities depending on the city.
Okay.
You've got SL for Stockholm,
Okay.
Västtrafik for Gothenburg,
Gothenburg.
and Skånetrafiken for the Malmö region.
MoMA. Okay.
They all have really comprehensive networks of buses, trains, and trams
Wow.
that are generally clean, efficient, and reliable.
Very nice.
Yeah. And the guide also mentions the cost-saving benefit of monthly passes,
Oh, cool.
which is something to consider if you plan on using public transportation frequently.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And what about driving?
Okay.
I imagine it's pretty straightforward given their reputation for order and efficiency.
For the most part, yes.
Okay.
However, there is one important detail to keep in mind.
Okay.
If you have a non-EU driving license,
Yeah.
it's only valid for 1 year in Sweden.
Really?
After that,
Yeah.
you'll need to get a Swedish driving license,
Oh, wow.
which will involve taking both a written and a practical test.
Yeah. So it's a whole process.
It is.
But the guide outlines it.
It does.
Oh, that's
So,
helpful.
Yeah, you'll be well prepared.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Anything else someone behind the wheel in Sweden should be aware of?
Well, this might be obvious given Sweden's climate,
Yeah.
but winter tires are mandatory from December to March.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
It's all about staying safe on those icy roads.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Speaking of winter,
Yeah.
I have to ask,
hmm
how bad are the winters in Sweden, really?
Well, the guide paints a pretty vivid picture,
Okay.
especially up north.
Yeah.
Winters can be long and cold,
Okay.
with temperatures often dropping below freezing. So investing in quality winter gear,
Okay.
like a warm coat,
Yeah.
hat, gloves,
Mm-hmm.
and a good pair of boots
Yeah.
is absolutely essential.
So layer up, basically.
Yeah, basically.
What about summer?
Okay.
I imagine it's pretty short and sweet up there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Summers in Sweden are generally mild and pleasant, but they don't last very long.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got to make the most of those sunny days while they last.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can definitely see how that would affect the culture.
Yeah.
Now, what about daylight hours?
Okay.
I've heard stories about like those long summer days and dark winter nights,
Yeah.
especially up north.
Yeah.
Is that actually a thing?
It's totally a thing.
No kidding.
Yeah, the further north you go,
Yeah.
the more extreme the daylight situation becomes.
Right.
In the summer, you can experience the magical midnight sun,
Midnight sun.
where the sun barely sets.
Wow.
But in the winter,
Yeah.
the days are incredibly short,
Oh, wow.
and darkness can set in like by early afternoon.
That is wild.
The guide even suggests using light therapy lamps
Really?
to combat the effects of those long winter nights.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
It's amazing how climate can shape so many aspects of life.
it really is.
So we've covered transportation, climate,
Yeah.
even daylight hours.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about some of the more practical aspects of living in Sweden.
All right.
The guide mentions some essential apps and resources
Right.
that make life easier.
Absolutely.
So what are those?
Remember Bankit,
Bankit, yeah.
that supercharged digital ID we talked about earlier?
Right.
Well, the guide lists a bunch of other must-have apps.
Okay, cool.
There's Swish,
Wish.
which is super popular for mobile payments,
Okay.
making it really easy to split bills with friends or pay for things on the go.
Okay.
Then there's the SJ app,
That's just
perfect for booking train tickets if you're
on.
planning on exploring the country
nice.
and to manage all those important documents.
Yeah.
There's Kivra.
Kivra.
It's a digital mailbox
Okay.
that helps you stay organized and keeps everything in one place.
Wow, those sound super handy.
They are.
I'm already picturing myself flipping around Sweden, paying for fika with my phone, catching trains on a whim.
It's the Swedish way, embracing technology to streamline daily life.
Now, even in a tech-savvy country like Sweden,
Mm-hmm.
you'll want to have those essential emergency numbers memorized.
Right, just in case.
Right, so if I need to call for help,
Yeah.
I'm guessing 911 doesn't work in Sweden.
Nope.
Okay.
911 won't get you very far.
What do I dial?
For general emergencies, you dial 112.
112, got it.
And for health-related concerns, you can call 1177 for advice
Okay.
or to book an appointment.
Got it.
Yeah.
And what if you're not sure where to find specific information
Yeah.
or need help with a particular issue?
Hmm.
Are there any good websites for finding answers?
Yeah, the guide highlights a couple of helpful websites
Yeah.
for general information about living in Sweden and newcomer resources. Sweden.se is a great starting point.
Sweden.s.
It's the official website.
Okay.
So it's packed with reliable and up-to-date information.
Good to know.
And if you have any questions about immigration processes or
Mhm.
residency permits, migrationsverket.se is the website for the Swedish Migration Agency.
Migrationsverket.se.
Yeah, the same folks who handle those applications.
Oh, okay. So that's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got our apps. We've
Yeah.
got our emergency numbers.
Yeah.
We've got our websites bookmarked.
All right.
What else is there to know about fitting into Swedish society?
Well, it's not just about knowing the practical stuff.
Right.
It's also about understanding the social and cultural norms
Yeah.
that shape life in Sweden.
Right.
And the guide delves into those nuances as well.
Okay. Bring on the cultural insights. I'm ready.
One thing that stands out in the guide
Okay.
is the strong emphasis on equality,
Okay.
gender equality,
Mm-hmm.
LGBTQ plus rights,
Yeah.
and environmental consciousness.
Okay.
These values are deeply ingrained in Swedish society.
Yeah. That aligns with what I've heard about Sweden.
Yeah,
They seem to be pretty progressive in those areas.
they are.
Okay.
And the guide emphasizes how important it is for newcomers to respect and embrace these values.
Makes sense. What about other cultural quirks? Anything I should be aware of to avoid any awkward social blunders?
Well, I'm sure you've heard of fika.
Fico, yes.
Yeah,
The guide mentioned it,
it did.
but didn't go into a ton of detail.
Right.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
What's the deal with fika?
It's more than just a coffee break.
Oh,
It's a social ritual.
really?
Yeah, it's woven into the fabric of Swedish life.
Wow.
Yeah, taking a break to enjoy coffee, often with pastries or sandwiches,
Yeah.
is a way to connect with colleagues,
Right.
friends, or family.
Okay.
It's a time to relax, chat, and bond.
It's like a built-in excuse to just pause and appreciate the simple things.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, and the guy highlights
Mhm.
how fika is not just encouraged,
Yeah.
but often expected.
Really?
It's seen as a way to, like, boost morale,
Okay.
encourage creativity, and
And
strengthen relationships.
I love it.
Mhm. Yeah.
So noted.
Yeah.
I'll be sure to schedule plenty of fika breaks into my Swedish life.
You should.
What else should I know about social etiquette?
Well, the guide mentions that Swedes tend to value punctuality.
Okay.
Being on time for appointments or social gatherings
Mm-hmm.
is seen as a sign of respect.
Okay, so no showing up fashionably late.
Yet.
Got it.
Yeah.
Anything else about how Swedes interact?
Swedes also tend to value personal space
Okay.
a bit more than you might be used to in other cultures.
Okay.
They might not be as effusive with physical touch or as loud in public spaces.
Gotcha.
It's not about being unfriendly.
Right.
It's more about respecting boundaries.
Interesting. So it's a culture of respect and consideration,
Definitely.
which I can appreciate.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious about the social scene.
Yeah.
The guide mentions the importance of building a community
Yeah.
and connecting with others.
Mm-hmm.
What are some good ways for like a newcomer to Sweden
Yeah.
to build those social connections?
Joining clubs or groups
Oh.
is a great way to meet like-minded people, whether you're into sports,
Yeah.
music, art, or anything else.
Right.
There's bound to be a group for you.
Okay.
The guide also mentions organizations like the Red Cross
Okay.
or Röda Korset, as it's called in Swedish,
Rhoda Corset. Gotcha.
which offers various support services for immigrants.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
What about connecting with people from my home country?
Mm.
Are there expat communities in Sweden?
Definitely.
Okay.
Most major cities have expat communities,
Okay.
and there are online forums and social media groups
Oh, cool.
where you can connect with people from your country.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it can be comforting to have that sense of familiarity and
Yeah.
shared experience
Yeah,
when you're adjusting to a new place.
totally.
Yeah.
What about immersing myself in Swedish culture?
Okay.
Are there any holidays or festivals that are particularly fun
Oh, absolutely.
or interesting?
Sweden has a really rich cultural calendar.
Cool.
The guide mentions Midsummer,
Midsummer.
which is a huge celebration in June
Okay.
with dancing,
Yeah.
bonfires, and lots of festive food.
Sounds fun.
Then there's Lucia Day in December,
Lucia Day.
where girls wear crowns of candles
Oh.
and sing traditional songs.
That sounds really beautiful.
It's a beautiful and moving tradition.
And of course, there's National Day
Right.
on June 6th,
Yeah.
which is a day of national pride and celebration. Wow. Those all sound amazing.
They're great.
I can already see myself joining in the festivities.
Yeah.
Maybe even learning a Swedish folk dance or two.
I bet you will.
Experiencing those cultural traditions firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's one of the best ways to truly understand and appreciate Swedish culture.
Definitely.
All right, so we've explored transportation,
Mm-hmm.
social customs,
Yeah.
even holiday celebrations.
Right.
What else do we need to cover
Wow.
to equip someone for life in Sweden?
Let's not forget the practical side of things.
Right.
Managing finances.
Right, money matters.
Yeah. The guide has a whole section dedicated to banking,
Okay.
budgeting, and understanding the cost of living in Sweden.
What are some of the key things someone should know about managing their finances in Sweden?
Once you have your person number,
Okay.
you can open a bank account
Okay.
at one of the many Swedish banks.
Cool.
The guide mentions SEB, Nordea, and Swedbank as popular options.
Okay. And I'm guessing credit cards and debit cards are widely accepted.
Absolutely.
Okay.
In fact, Sweden is moving towards becoming a cashless society.
Oh, wow.
So you'll find that most places prefer card payments.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
What about cost of living?
Okay.
I've heard that things can be a bit pricey in Sweden.
The guide does point out that the cost of living in Sweden,
Yeah.
especially in the major cities,
Right.
can be higher than in many other countries.
Okay.
Housing, groceries, and utilities can be particularly expensive.
So budgeting is key.
It is.
Are there any specific tips the guide offers
Yeah.
for managing expenses in Sweden?
The guide suggests taking advantage of public transportation discounts,
Okay.
cooking at home rather than eating out all the time,
Right.
and being mindful of your energy consumption,
Yeah.
especially during those cold winter months.
So it's about finding those smart ways to stretch your budget.
Exactly.
But on the flip side, the guide also mentions
Mm-hmm.
that public health care and education are heavily subsidized in Sweden,
They are.
which is a huge plus.
It is.
So while the cost of living might be higher,
Yeah.
you're also benefiting from those social safety nets.
Right.
They're designed to support everyone,
Exactly.
regardless of their income.
It's a good system.
So it's kind of a trade-off.
Yeah.
Higher costs in some areas,
Mm-hmm.
but you also have peace of mind knowing you have access to quality healthcare and education
Right.
without breaking the bank.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's about weighing those pros and cons
Definitely.
and understanding the overall picture.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Language, residency, social systems, work, housing,
Yeah.
education, transportation, climate,
Mm-hmm.
even cultural quirks and financial tips.
It's a lot to take in.
It is a lot to take in.
But the guide does a great job of breaking it all down in
Yeah.
a clear and concise way.
And remember,
Wow.
you don't have to absorb everything at once.
Right.
Take it one step at a time,
Yeah.
and don't be afraid to ask questions along the way.
Exactly.
So before we wrap up this part of our deep dive into Swedish life,
Okay.
I have to ask,
Yeah.
what's the most surprising or intriguing thing you came across in this guide? What really stood out to you?
You know what really caught my attention?
Yeah.
Was this concept of allemansrätten,
Allemansrätten.
which translates to the right of public access.
Allemansrätten, that's a mouthful.
It is.
What does it mean?
It's this wonderful Swedish tradition
Okay.
that allows anyone to roam freely in nature,
Really?
regardless of who owns the land.
Wow.
You can hike,
Oh,
camp, forage for berries and mushrooms,
wow.
even swim in lakes,
No kidding?
all without needing permission.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I can see why they call it the right of public access.
Yeah,
It's like a national right to enjoy nature.
exactly.
Wow.
It speaks volumes about Sweden's deep connection to nature and its commitment to preserving natural beauty for everyone to enjoy.
I'm starting to get a sense of why so many people are drawn to Sweden. It seems like a country that values equality,
Yeah,
sustainability, and a
definitely.
deep connection to the natural world.
Absolutely.
This guide does a great job of capturing those values
It does.
and providing practical information
Yeah,
that will help anyone thrive in this amazing country.
it's a great resource.
Now, before we get too carried away,
Yeah.
daydreaming about Swedish forests and fika breaks,
Right.
let's move on to the final part of our deep dive. We'll recap some key takeaways and offer some final thoughts for those ready to embark on their Swedish adventure.
Sounds good.
Let's wrap this up.
Okay.
Okay, so we've covered so much in this deep dive into what it takes to move to Sweden.
It's a lot, yeah.
Visas, housing, culture, fika, allemansrätten, so many things. If someone's listening and they're really thinking about making Sweden their home,
Yeah.
what's like the one piece of advice you would give them?
I think the most important thing is to really just embrace the whole experience.
Okay.
Yeah, like the highs and the lows.
Mm-hmm.
Moving to a new country is a big change.
Yeah, for sure.
It's bound to come with challenges.
Right.
You know, there will be times where you're frustrated,
Yeah.
confused, maybe a little homesick.
Right.
But there are also going to be these incredible moments of discovery,
Right.
personal growth, and connection. It's all part of the journey.
So true. It's about having realistic expectations, but also keeping an open mind and a sense of adventure.
Exactly. And the fact that you're listening to this deep dive
Yeah.
tells me you're already on the right track.
Okay.
You're actively like seeking out knowledge,
Right.
preparing yourself for what's ahead.
Being informed and proactive can make such a difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
You've taken the time to learn about Swedish society and culture and all the practicalities.
Yeah.
That understanding is going to set you up for a smoother transition
Right.
and a much more fulfilling experience overall.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into thriving in Sweden in 2025,
Yeah.
I want to leave our listeners with this.
Okay.
Now that you have this overview,
Yeah.
what are you most excited to experience in Sweden firsthand?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Is it the challenge of learning Swedish?
Yeah.
Unlocking a whole new way of communicating?
Yeah.
Maybe it's the chance to explore the nature,
Yeah.
hike through a forest at midnight under the summer sun?
That sounds pretty cool.
Or is it connecting with people from all walks of life? Immersing yourself in this culture that values equality and social consciousness.
So many good things.
Whatever excites you most about Sweden,
Yeah.
hold on to that feeling.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let it fuel your journey as you embark on this new chapter. And remember, you're not alone.
Right.
There are so many people who have made Sweden their home,
Yeah.
and they're ready to welcome you.
And if you ever need a refresher on all this stuff, you can always revisit this deep dive.
Exactly. We've just scratched the surface.
Yeah. but hopefully given you a good foundation to build on.
So, to everyone dreaming of a Swedish adventure, we
Yeah.
say lycka till.
Lycka till.
Good luck.
Good luck.
And vises i Swedish.
Vises i Swedish.
See you in Sweden.